All right, cool. We're going to go with this. You see me in the corner and then a slide?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, welcome. This is the pilot of a sort of virtual program that I'm starting. My name is Austin, and I think, I don't know if I've met you guys. I know I've seen you. The Water Kefiri's been around for years, Ivy. In fact, I feel like back in the days when I was up in the Bay Area more often, I've encountered the brand somewhere. So thanks for joining in here. So yeah, this is going to be the first of what I envision will be monthly check-in meetings to empower you guys, to the extent you're interested in becoming, chapters, but we're going to use the term community instead of chapter, and I'll kind of go over that. So the idea tonight is to just kind of go over the club a little bit, my background, talk about, and then just jump into what a Fermenters Club community, as I'm envisioning it, is. Talk about some of the guiding principles, and kind of how I've been organizing meetings down here. I'm based in San Diego, but again, this is something that I believe is portable to all over the world. So, and then you guys can share kind of what your thoughts are on, if you are interested in leading a chapter, and maybe a little bit about your background. So that's the idea. I scheduled an hour, although if you have a little bit more time, maybe we can spend as much time as you have this evening. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right. So let's talk about Fermenters Club. This is it's a passion project that I started in 2011, so it's coming up on 12 years old now. And it was just my own journey to understand, fermentation as it relates to food, and kind of what all this stuff, the buzzwords around, food means seasonal, organic, local, what's the wheat, what's the chaff, and all that. And on that journey, I discovered fermentation as an ancient practice that, has been around forever. I didn't grow up with it, so it was a discovery to me, and I was just really inspired. So I started writing a blog, which is now the website, and I've basically turned this into my full-time gig. So I envision it as, the pillars are education, information, and entertainment, in the spirit of teaching people how to make food, and also to help create communities, because that was one of the original ideas. And one of the things that happened was, once I started doing this, I wanted to infect my friends with this. So we did these food swaps, and that was kind of the genesis of what I think is evolving into these communities, which, again, I'm using community with a capital C, as I'll explain in a minute, interchangeably with what you might call a chapter in a different area. So now it's, like I said, it's a multimedia platform. I've got virtual classes. I do live workshops here in the San Diego area. I have pre-recorded content and newsletter, YouTube content, that sort of stuff. So really just all in the spirit of the mission of the club, which is to improve people's lives by teaching them why and how to make fermented foods, and to create communities connected to our guts. So that's kind of where the community aspect comes in. So a Fermenters Club community, as I envision it, again, spelled with a capital C, a single geographically based group that meets regularly to conduct meetings. And what are meetings? I see them, again, as I've experienced them, informal gatherings, which are free to attend, to encourage fermented food enthusiasts just to meet socially, share recipes, swap cultures, have a little bit of a potluck, and just really gather around food, because that was a real revelation for me when I first did this. Was like, we all know the power of these potent foods, but adding to that the sharing and the energy that's exchanged in sort of at a metaphysical level is just even greater. So I feel like that's important, an important way for people to meet, and a good excuse for people to meet, I guess. So so the idea is that the gatherings are open to all people and are free for anybody to join. And well, this came out really big. So there's a lot more guiding principles here, but I don't know where they went. I think when I was turning this into a PDF, some got lost. But you can switch over. I can't really switch over with this. Let me see. sheet here. No. All right. So I'll go over some of the guiding principles. A few of them are not visible to you guys, but I'll just walk through them. So the first one is a focus on food, right? So of course, fermentation, is a broad enough category to include beverages, alcoholic beverages, and other things. But the club, as I see it, is more about food. It's nourishment, value, it's probiotics, it's all the additional postbiotics and things that happen during the fermentation that are beneficial to people. Not that I have anything against beer and wine, but this is not a beer and wine club. That's not the idea behind it. Inclusion, it really just means I envision anybody at any skill level, whether they've got their own fermented food business, all the way down to like, hey, my husband likes kimchi and I wanted to learn about it, like newbies and all the way to experts. And also I think intergenerational, foci meeting places are something that I'd like to see return to our society if they ever were in our lifetime. I think it's just important for young people and older people to learn from one another. So I think that would be, if we can figure out ways to include multiple generations, I think that's going to enhance and enrich everybody's experience. Is this just take a pause and just making sense so far? Is this what you guys were expecting to meet about this evening?
Yeah, it makes sense. Interesting to look at how your kind of what your model is, and likewise, we ferment. I do make wine. I don't make beer, but we do ferment a variety of foods. We haven't got into cheese yet, but certainly kimchi and sauerkraut, kombucha, that sort of thing.
Awesome. Okay, good. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pop over to the rest of the guiding principles here, because they get lost in translation. No, they really did get lost in translation. Personal responsibility, right? So, okay, so that's the next one. So, this is something that I have to figure out how to do it in a way that it's just clear that everybody takes responsibility for their own actions. I mean, I think it sounds like, Joe, you've got experience, and I'm sure Ivy is running a company. You understand that fermented foods are extremely safe. They're extremely benign, but it's a biological process. Things can go wrong. And the truth is, I'm just providing this as a way to help create communities, but I don't intend to take responsibility. I'm not selling products, so everybody's responsible for themselves. And the corollary to that principle would be to trust your senses. And this is something when I teach the classes, is important to, we are given a fully developed set of senses when we're born. And maybe we're not always incentivized to use them in our modern day world, but the idea is, trust your senses. If something looks bad, smells bad, has a weird texture, has a weird color, I always advise, just throw it in the compost pile and start over. So again, just another principle as you're going through and trusting the community. Another guiding principle is curiosity, right? So just the willingness to learn about new traditions and cultures, try different things, and explore the microbial world, really. Another principle is seasonality. So I think it's important, just from again, harkening back to a time before we had all of our modern conveniences of, global supply chains, Amazon Prime and refrigeration and all that stuff. We had to sort of work in sync with the cycle of nature. And so, and that extends to ferments, right? So certain ferments, as we know, perform better in the environment or in the seasons in which the foods that we're making thrive, right? So, for example, pickles in the summer, right? Cucumbers are a summer fruit, so they tend to do better in that weather. conversely with, brassicas like sauerkraut and cabbage and all that. So seasonality, if we can practice that as we're setting up our meetings and coming up with themes and such, I think that'll be useful. Another principle is interconnectedness and also interdependency, right? So just my little blurb is we are all connected in myriad ways, and no man or no human is an island. So I think that creating these opportunities for people to connect in community, when enough people get together for a shared purpose, has what's called an emergent property. So the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So it's just a way for people to connect with one another over something as wholesome as food. And the last principle is cross-pollination with other disciplines, right? So I think as we're looking for fun content and things to reaching out within our communities, cross-pollinating with other, maybe farmers or beekeepers or people that make textiles. I'm just kind of making it up, that, and you find sort of a way to connect with fermentation, just as a way to kind of keep things interesting and keep it fun, and also again to learn about other things and other people within your own community. So the next thing I want to talk about is just the ethical standards, right? So I've become familiar with and exemplify the guiding principles as I just kind of outlined them, and of course I'll share the written stuff with you guys after the meeting. Common sense, but comporting yourself with the levels of morality, integrity, kindness, and patience. I mean, you're an ambassador to fermented foods as well as the microbes that create them, right? So especially if there's somebody that's a newbie, it's just good to have a lot of patience with them. So and then as we're going through this and as this is evolving, I would just ask that you use the Fermenters Club materials that I'm providing just in the ways that we're prescribing. So just don't use them outside of that, in crazy ways, at least without checking in first. So that's not to say that I know everything, but so if you've got a creative use you want to pitch, just let me know and we'll figure it out. So again, I see this as just a framework, and I'm fully expecting to learn from the different communities that, such as if you guys both decide to start one and have one, I think it's a virtuous cycle of feeding back information and input, and that will help everybody in all the communities across the world. So that's the idea. So the quick guides to the meetings, again, I apologize, this is didn't come out properly here. So find a public place to meet, and I think that's very important. Now again, I might learn, as others that join, they might say there's no public places because I live in Alaska, and actually there was a woman that was said she was going to join today from Alaska. And so I imagine there's probably a lot of rural communities, but yeah, I think it's important to meet in a public place for several reasons. One is to help people feel safe. And also it's to help if you're meeting in a public place, let's say a brewery or a restaurant or a community center, then there are other people who might kind of like look in, oh, what's going on there? And this is another way to just sort of ad hoc reach out to people and spread the word. And the idea, the basic model that I think has worked, at least for me, 1.5 to 2 hours would be a meeting every 1 to 3 months. And within that, you have a topic, a theme, or maybe a guest speaker, and then a potluck. So that's kind of the format. So again, it's an informal, but it's nice to have a specific topic, whether it's seasonal, whether it's somebody from the community. And we just you set up a swap table, as I call it, at one part of wherever we're meeting, and everybody kind of labels what they brought, and we just enjoy and share and have a good time. So that's the idea. And And 1 to 3, like I said, 1 to 3 months, whatever rhythm. I would say at least every quarter. But if you got an enthusiastic group and that you want to meet every month, great. Maybe every 2 months, every other month. So that's kind of the thought there. Yeah. So again, you guys tracking with me here? Is this feeling good about what we're going over? Okay. All right. So I'm just gonna switch over to, rather than go into deeper dives here. I wanna learn more about what you guys are, what you expect, or what your thoughts are. So just share your name, where you are, your fermentation experience, and maybe if you've already thought about it, a couple of venues in your community that you might want to meet based on kind of what we talked about or so far, and then any sort of immediate questions you have.
Sure, I'll jump in. Yeah, my name's Joe Hafner. I live here in Roswell, New Mexico, of all places. And for fermentation experience, I guess we started with foods, with kimchi. We had Korean friends. Actually, we had a Korean neighbor when we were in Ohio who made kimchi in his backyard, and we started with that. And then once I moved here, I started growing grapes and making wine and fermenting. Well, we got a SCOBY and started making kombucha, and that got real popular. We haven't started a group, but you want to add something?
No, we've got, oh, okay. What are people making?
Fermented peppers for
Fermented
ceviche
peppers,
made
yeah.
of South American relish, cordita.
Yeah.
And you mentioned beekeeping. I'm also a beekeeper.
Nice.
So we had tried mead. It was a failure, but I'm saving it because I heard it gets better. So, yeah, I agree. It may never get better. But so we think about it. I mean, we share what we make, I mean, with just friends in dinner party atmospheres. But it would just listen to you speak. I'm trying to think. We do have a limited farmers market that runs during our summer, and there's one, say, coffee shop that's got a good vibe to it.
Mhm.
But that's kind of where I think.
We're at
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, and you don't have to have the immediate answer right now, but no, that's good background. Just kind of curious, climate wise, what elevation and rainfall, precipitation?
Yeah, we're at about 3,600 feet. Our listed rainfall is an average of 10 inches a year. We're kind of mid-high desert.
Got it.
And I mean, 1 year it didn't rain for 9 months. That was probably the longest I've seen. And sometimes we do get, we'll have a wetter season. And so you sort of have to water or irrigate to get your vegetables to grow. Our soil is also very alkaline, so it's challenging
Okay.
sometimes to get things. I've got apples and plums and blackberry, and in addition to just the vegetables.
Very cool. Well, yeah, it sounds like about the same rainfall we get down here, about 10 to 12 inches. Thanks, Joe.
Sure.
Hi, Austin.
Hi, Ivy.
So it's great to meet you. I love what you're doing. I started my water kefir business about a year ago. There was a business in Sebastopol called the Kefiri, and they changed their name to Enlivened. I think you're thinking about them.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Okay.
But I do believe that they are no longer in business. I can't seem to track them anymore. But I kind of came into this field after I had some pretty severe health complications. And I started looking into different things that would help me kind of regain homeostasis. And after, tons of trial and error, and reading all sorts of stuff about drinking lemon juice and apple cider vinegar and all this stuff, I came across fermented foods, mostly lacto-fermentation and the water kefir grains. So that resonated with me a lot more than some other cultures I had tried, like kombucha. Wasn't really giving me the results. It didn't really make me feel that great. And then I sort of discovered that water kefir is kind of this hidden gem. No one's really doing it. And then I realized that in my community, we don't even really have that much fermented food. And then I started learning about the health department and what it takes to be able to have a facility to ferment food at. And those are some of the challenges that my community faces. We have enormous gardens, farmers markets year round, plenty of food. It's amazing. They do ranches and farming, tons of water. The soil's great here.
Where are you? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
What are you in Northern California, or was I?
Yeah, I am. I'm like in Arcata.
Oh, got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Really,
way
the real
north.
Northern California, yeah.
The real northern, yep. And I'm on the coast.
Okay.
So it's gorgeous. You know, we're really blessed in so many ways to have good water and varieties of foods and things. And so one of the things that I'm interested in doing is pretty much echoing everything that you already said. I would love to be able to meet more people in my community that are interested about fermenting. And I think at this phase, based on what I can tell from doing the farmers market for the last year, is it kind of is a little bit more of community education based. For some reason, there isn't a ton of people up here unless they're the homesteaders that know about lacto-fermentation, which in my opinion is just the easiest. So I am very interested in bringing people in my community together to learn about this, to utilize the resources we have from our farms. I think that there's a lot of opportunity up here because everything's so plentiful. And we have great restaurants, great breweries, great places like the Grange and all different places that have kitchens that are all public. I think that would all work great for a meeting. So that's kind of a little bit about me and what drew me to you. So I think it's great that you kind of laid the foundation out, you know, like I'm sure I could do this on my own, but I'm pretty busy running a business. And oh yeah, and also the cherry on top, I'm originally from San Diego, which is kind of how I found you guys and what you're doing, and became, you know, a little bit passionate about networking statewide. I think that's great too, not just within my community, but being part of something, you know, that's statewide and even nationwide, you know, hearing people in New Mexico.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. Well, that's great. Thanks for the background. How big of a town is Arcata, or that in that area? What's the population?
That's a great question. I have no idea what the population is. I know that the university here was called Humboldt State, and they recently switched over to Cal Poly. We've had this huge surge of students coming up here. And there was a lot of people that moved in during the pandemic to work from home. So I think that the statistics are probably not very accurate, even if I knew them, but we're big. We're big. We have a huge university, you know, but like not as big as Chico, because it takes 5 hours on the 101 to get here from San Francisco.
Yeah.
So we're very isolated in that sense. But what we have here as far as access to things that I think would really align with what you're doing, and, you know, all these ideas and thoughts you have, that this just, it's like a puzzle that fits into this community. People have just been over the moon about the water kefir. It's been extremely successful. And I'm constantly telling them about lacto fermentation because it's so cheap and easy. And and no sugar. You know, I do have to feed the water kefir grain sugar. So a lot of people up here don't like that. So it's it's pretty big. We, you know, we have a decent sized community.
Great. That's wonderful. Yeah. And like you said, it sounds like it's ready made for something like this. And yeah, I appreciate that feedback, because one of the things that as I did this, I'm like, this isn't rocket science. But to your point, like, people don't necessarily have whatever, maybe the same amount of time that I do, or the focus on assembling it, so that I can sort of like hand the proverbial, you know, notebook over to someone and they can hit the ground running. So I'm glad you see value in it. And I think that's probably going to be true for most people, that this this isn't their full-time job. This would just be a passion that they're doing. So
Yeah,
great.
and I'd love to see more fermented foods like in the restaurants here.
Right.
I took a trip to Austin, and there's this restaurant called 𝐬𝐻 Rye that's just based around fermentation.
I
It's like,
follow those guys on Instagram. I know exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
right? Yeah, I had the opportunity to go eat there, and it's so fun. It's
Oh my
just,
gosh.
it's such a
Yeah.
fun experience. And I'm like, I don't understand why this needs to be the new trend, you know?
Yeah,
Because
I agree. It has not hit the restaurant scene. I mean, it's hit the home scene, like you said, the homesteading scene, but it hasn't really. I mean, there's a long way to go to get this, you know, in more inculcated in the culture. And I think you're right. Restaurants is a
yeah,
great.
and it's easy, like for restaurants, once you have your restaurant, your brick and mortar, legally in California, you can ferment and
Right.
serve it. It's just if
Right.
you want to resell it that you know, have to get this other permit, which isn't that hard either. So it's like, I feel like it's right there, you
Yeah.
know, and we
Yeah.
have, like I said, our farmers market goes year round. It's so plentiful. It's like we have so much food up here. It's great.
Awesome. Okay. Good. Well, thanks for sharing the intros and who you guys are and what you guys might are looking to get out of this. So I'll jump back in then to some of the details. I kind of broke it down as to who, what, when, where, why. And again, this is a lot. There's a lot of bullets. I know I did the corporate world for many years and know that you shouldn't have more than 5 bullets per page, but I was just copying and pasting, and I'll provide this. The idea is to actually have this in a PDF document, like a handbook that you can use as a reference. But so I'll just kind of buzz through it. And again, if you have something in, you know, as I'm saying it, you don't have to wait till the end. Just call it out. So the who, right? So how do we get interest and get the word out? So here's just some of the things that I've used that work, and I think I've used most of them. Some of them I think I've just heard of that are good techniques, but obviously creating a Facebook event. A lot of people use Facebook and or other social media, and an ideal time to publish would be like 3 to 4 weeks before an event. And I think that's because further out than that, like 5, 6 weeks, people are like, oh yeah, I'll go to that. And then, you know, either they don't put it on the calendar, or they think that they're available and they're not. And then if you're within 3 to 4 weeks, people have usually booked their schedules out that. So I find a sweet spot of about 3 to 4 weeks to set up, you know, establish at least the date. Now, of course, if we're starting to do a cadence of regular meetings, then that might be a little bit different, because that will help people say, okay, well, we know, for example, this is the 3rd Thursday of you know, every other month or something like that, and maybe you can set that up. But just in general, what I learned about planning events. And then, of course, you want to, if you do get your Facebook event, and I can also help you. I've got a pretty decent following on my Facebook group, about 20,000. So as you guys are setting up events, I can either help you, I can set them up and say, oh, you know, Fermenters Community 𝐒𝐴RCADA or Fermenters Community Roswell, you know, and then then I can make you guys admins to that event. You can invite people. So using social media, you know, I like to have a good, you know, perspective about using it and an expectation about it. I think it can be an effective tool to get the word out. Nextdoor, if you, I don't know if that app is popular in your area, that's hyper local, so you could use that, you know, publish your event on there. Finding local online community calendar. So I've got like a spreadsheet here in San Diego, which is a very large city. I think about 3 million people in the area. There's about 8 different calendars that people use, such as Yelp, We have alt weeklies called like San Diego Reader, and so you can just post your event on all of those. And if each one gets 1 or 2 people, then that's good, and they're mostly free. So the online community calendars, and that includes the news channels, KPBS or PBS, whatever your PBS station has a community calendar. Again, I have a more comprehensive list, but just kind of giving you, just brainstorming on ways to get it out. Word of mouth, of course, telling everybody even calling your local news TV station, and they like quirky things. So fermentation is still quirky. So you can say, hey, I'm starting this new chapter where we're all about fermented foods. Can I come into the studio and I'll just bring a bunch of things? And they love that. They eat that. They literally eat that stuff up. So that might be a fun way to get the word out. You can create and print flyers, of course, physical flyers. Canva, if you haven't heard of it, is a great tool to create professional looking posters and stuff. And I'll eventually provide templates for that, so I can just give them to you, and you can just plug in the name of the venue and the date and that sort of thing. So again, that's part of what I see as sort of I call myself headquarters, is empowering you guys without you having to reinvent everything. And then of course posting up flyers in various places like natural food stores, coffee shops, student unions, libraries, at the venue, wherever that venue is. So these are some of the major ways to get word out. You can find and invite local food people. They're, again, cross-pollinating with others, like, because fermentation is such a, it's not only for like homesteady folks, but it's for yogis, and it's for people who are having health issues, and chiropractors and naturopaths. Like, everybody that is in these health related fields, especially sort of on non-allopathic side, has heard about this stuff. So I think they're going to help promote this. So it's really just a matter of, you're limited by only your creativity in terms of who to tell about this stuff. And then if you've got a meetup group for another reason, meetup.com is a pretty well used site. I don't have a group account or a master account yet. If there's enough demand and we find it to be effective, I will create one for, again, a headquarters one, and then everybody can use it to post their events. So that's just some ideas on how to get word out once you get your meeting established. The where would be the next question of what we're looking for. So again, I feel pretty adamant that we got to meet in public places. It sounds like for your communities that's not going to be an issue. But again, I'm always listening. If somebody has a good reason why that doesn't work in their community, I want to be at least open to understanding it. But again, I think it's good for keeping people safe and feeling safe and comfortable, but also to attract new people, right? So some of the venues that I've done meetings at: breweries, wineries, cideries, meaderies. Of course, fermentation loves fermentation, so they're all most people that are brewers or winemakers already know this stuff and will be friendly to you. Brew pubs, tap rooms, cafes, coffee houses, granges if you've got them in your town. Farmers markets may be a little bit of a stretch, only because they're, you got to be there when they're there, whatever that day of the week that is. But it could work. Holistic health practitioners' offices. I think I've got a longer list here, but it might have gotten truncated. Let's see here. Oh yeah, natural food co-ops. So a lot of times they'll have some of them will actually have community rooms dedicated to, and it may even with kitchens. Like, I don't know if they're in New Mexico, but there's a chain called Natural Grocers, and they actually have and they're not in California. I know they're in Oregon and most of the Pacific Northwest, but they have a community room, and it usually has a kitchen in it. So that could be a cool place to meet. Libraries, public parks, town halls, community centers, if you've got one, are often easy places to meet. Fraternal order lodges like the Masonic lodges, Scottish Rite, etc. And then restaurants can be a good place to meet. Again, it depends. It's there's some sensitivities there, of course. You typically, if you go into a restaurant, they're going to want you to eat there, so that you could work that in, depending on the type of restaurant it is. Hopefully it's some kind of, somebody that's doing sourcing well, a farm to table style restaurant, for example, and and you can make it work. So those are just some of the places as far as the where. So just in general, what I would say is look for, people that are fermentation friendly. You just want to make sure there's enough table space for the expected number of guests. And it might be small when you're first starting, might be 4 or 5, but just have a reserved table and maybe an extra table for where you can put your goodies to swap. Make sure that the venue is okay bringing in outside food, because obviously that's one of the key components of what we're doing. And try to find a place that's convenient so that most people can reach it within a reasonable amount of time. Typically, I'm going to get to when on the next slide, but early evenings, like 6 p.m., I think is a good start time for people that have, day jobs, just to get as many people as we can. And then, again, a nice to have, I like to say, is if the venue has a monitor, like, they're a sports bar, or they have a TV monitor that you can hook a slide up to, and or even sequester that part of the place, whether it's a bar or a room, if you have slides to present during the meeting. And again, that's might be subject to who the guest is. There's also, of course, other ways to just use paper handouts to communicate information depending on what the topic is. So I'll just said a lot of words. I'll take a pause for a moment. You guys have any feedback or questions about that? Okay, I'll move on. Just pop in if you do. So when and how often, as the next W question. So it's really up to you. I would say at least every other month to sort of keep continuity. Possibly every quarter if you're trying to do like maybe a seasonal theme stuff. But really it depends on, you'll get a feel for it as you go through and as the members kind of give feedback on it. I think a good practice when you're setting up the meetings is to establish a specific day of the month, for example, the third Thursday of the month, or the third Thursday every other month, whatever it is, and stick to that so that people can start to rely upon it. And that seems to be a golden rule for getting traction for these meetings and getting people to know, oh, it's always this time. We are creatures of habit after all. So. And I find that if you're doing a midweek meetings, that Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursday evenings tend to be good days, especially if you're at a restaurant, because that tends to be their less busy time. And so there might be more amenable to letting a group come in. And again, especially if you're going to order food. So, which of course I recommend, doing if it makes sense. So early evenings, like I said, between 6 to 8 p.m. seem to be a good time. Now, if you're meeting on weekends, if that works better for your community, I think late mornings, right when maybe when a restaurant opens, 11 a.m. or so. Again, assuming it's not like a brunch restaurant, if it's perhaps if it's a bar or a brewery, though they don't usually get busy till the early afternoon, so it might be a good time again to meet. But or find out from them, like if there's a particular slow day, that might be a better time for you to meet. But again, these are just some of the things I've experienced over the years. Next question is the what. So what are we meeting about? What are some ideas for having meetings? Of course, the potluck is one of the central features of it. So everybody's bringing stuff that they've made, either they've grown in their garden, or there's new things they've made, or maybe a new culture. I think that's an important aspect of it. I think another key feature is having a theme or maybe a seasonal theme or a guest speaker, whether that's a member who's wants to show off or talk about one thing that they made, or maybe somebody from the community, whether maybe it's the brewer of the brewery that you're at. Maybe it's again somebody from it's doing the co-op. It's a member of the co-op, or a regenerative farmer, or somebody in the community. I like to say, it's best to stay in touch with the seasons, make the topic relevant to whatever community that you're in. Encourage people to bring like jars and little baggies of stuff so that they can swap cultures and ferments. Or you can even center a meeting around. Okay, so before I get to that, you can actually tell people, okay, go ahead and next batch of sauerkraut, make enough, and we've got 10 members, we'll all share and we'll do the same thing. So actually purposefully, make batches of food that you can share at this meeting, in addition to just sort of like, oh, this is just something I'm playing around with. So that could be a theme, say, okay, everybody make their own batch of pickles. I got a new person waiting, but stand by. All right. So you could actually make that your intentional goal of like, yeah, let's all make pickles and we'll compare notes next time. So that's one idea. Welcome, Karen. We're just kind of cruising through the different aspects of our kind of our setup here. So I'll after this slide, I'll let you kind of like introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are. I'll give you some bullet points in a second. Just get through here. So another idea might be a book club. So there's a fermentation related title that you like, So, okay, we're all going to read this and we're going to come back and we're going to have a little discussion about the book in our next meeting. And again, that works well if you've got like, maybe 2 months in between meetings. And finally, another idea is to actually do a workshop where you are making stuff real time at the event. So, somebody has a big, a bumper crop of cabbage, they're going to bring that in. Somebody else brings a bunch of ginger, some apples, salt, everybody gets together and they make jars together. So again, you want to make sure the venue's cool with that. You're just, you're shredding cabbage and making a big cloud. Of course, you'll clean up after yourself, but it has to be appropriate for the venue, right? So for example, miso and kimchi are examples where they're typically made traditionally in very large, community. In fact, kimchi is made in a community-wide setting often, and they put it up for the winter and all that stuff. So just some ideas. Any questions about that? And I'm going to scroll down and give some questions around Robin and give Karen a opportunity. So Karen, we've kind of been jumping around a little bit because again, this is the first pilot meeting here, but if you want to just share your name, where you're located, your fermentation experience, and if you've already thought about it, a couple of venues that might work for a meeting, and then any burning questions that you have, and then we'll get back to it.
Okay, well, my name is Karen Marie. I live in a suburb of Atlanta. I'm on the north side of Atlanta, headed towards South Carolina.
Okay.
I mean, if you've been in Atlanta, Atlanta just keeps going.
Yeah, I grew up in Florida, so I've been to Atlanta
Okay.
a good number of times. Yep.
Okay. I got started fermenting, I guess, in 2006. And so I've been doing it for a hot minute, and I don't do anything. I don't dabble lightly in anything. I tend to jump with both feet. So at any time, I have a whole refrigerator filled with different types of ferments. I have not had good luck fermenting squash. I can say I've had some epic fails there.
I also agree. Summer squash just is not the same as pickles. They look the same, but they do not behave the same, at least. With winter squash, I've been able to incorporate it into like a kimchi, like I'll slice some pumpkin or some butternut into a kimchi, but it's not like the star of the show. It's like, kind of, a side player. But so I share your experience with squash.
Well, I made your kimchi with the pumpkin, and the pepper that I used was not this. I thought it was the same. It's not the same. So being in Atlanta, I was able to source the same, but I had to really look for it. And so, I mean, I think that fermentation is so important. I was actually trained to be a naturopath, and until I can figure out what I'm going to be when I grow up, I'm 65. I'm working right now at Sprouts in the vitamin section.
Cool.
And the push for probiotics is intense, you know, and they'll like, well, what do you take? And I'm like, honestly, I don't take any of these. I eat fermented foods.
Yes.
You know, when I found out that there were more probiotics and different kinds of probiotics in my jar of sauerkraut than there are in a $42 bottle of probiotics, you know, it kind of made sense to me where I was gonna spend my money.
Yep.
I haven't tried fermenting protein. Have not gone down that route though. But I would love to learn how to do a sourdough gluten-free.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and just the thought of being able to bring together groups of people to raise awareness of this, that's what I've been trying to figure out, how to pull that together. And I really have thought of venues, but I'm coming up with nada right now.
That's okay. That's okay. So how big of a town are you in? I mean, when you say a suburb of Atlanta, are you for all intents and purposes in Atlanta and have access to the things there?
Yes. I'm, if anybody knows the area, I'm like Mall of Georgia. So I'm
outside the Beltway, right? Though, right? Or outside the loop?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I'm probably 36 miles out of out.
Okay. So okay, but you consider the greater Atlanta area, that's your community.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good. Cool. Yeah, and have you heard of or been to the Atlanta Fermentation Fest? It's relatively new, but I think they've been going 3 or 4 years.
That's down on the south side, I do believe. Maybe
Right.
East Park. And I have because I'm looking, you know.
Sure.
I clicked through to find who might potentially be in the Atlanta area. I mean, there are fermenting groups, but most of them ferment beer. Right.
Yeah, and that's what we kind of said at the beginning of the call, is just one of the guiding principles, which I'll send you guys the materials afterward, is this is about food. Fermenters Club is about food. We like beer and wine, but yeah, this is not a brew club. This is probiotic club.
You know, and I would love to get together with more like-minded people to, you know, it's the saying iron sharpens iron, and those of us who have been around the block a little while, there's still so much to learn. You know, I mean, there's so much to learn about fermenting, even like some of the cultures that we no longer have in our guts because our mothers did not have them.
Mm-hmm.
And how beneficial that can be in a world that has kind of gone crazy and could really use something to build an immune system. I mean, I think that's probably where I look at it more. It's the food, but how does the food play in with the gut?
Right.
You know,
Yep. Food as medicine for sure. That's one of
absolutely.
Actually, I'm going to add that to the guiding principles, because I think that's cornerstone here. Okay, well, good. Thanks for introducing yourself and kind of where you are in your journey, and yeah. So what I'll do is, if you don't have any other immediate questions, I'll kind of switch back. So we're at the hour. Can you guys spend another few minutes? If anybody have a hard stop and have to go, that's totally fine too. All right, I'll assume if you're hanging out, we'll get through this. All right, so we were kind of Karen, just to catch up, we were going through sort of the how, what, when, where, why, as far as the meetings themselves. And again, my intention is to create this into basically a book, actually an ebook that I'll distribute to you guys, and you can use as a reference, just to enjoy some of the experiences that I've had and benefit from the experience, I guess I should say, because I've done this sort of on and off for about 12 years. I like to practice what I preach. I need to get a more consistent meeting for here in the San Diego area where I am. But at the same time, I want to see this flourish. And I think the timing is, the time is always now, but, I think there hasn't been a better time to spread the word. So that's why I'm simultaneously also wanting to spread this to the rest of the world. All right. So we talked about when, we kind of talked about what ideas for when we're actually having the meetings. Here's a kind of a suggested format for a 90-minute format. So people arrive, we set up the swap table, we have, people fill out cards for what they've made, kind of talk about, you introduce what Fermenters Club is once everybody gets settled, just for new people that haven't been there before. You can pass around a sign-up sheet for the newsletter, which is something that I publish every other week. And then if you're at a venue like a restaurant or brewery or farm, whoever the host is, offer them an opportunity to welcome you and to talk about their business for a few minutes. Maybe any new announcements, community events, other things going on. And then the meeting host talks a little bit about, well, I think that's doubled up there. Maybe not. I double check my work here, but and then each member can kind of go around and talk about who they are if they're new, what they brought to the swap table. Again, kind of what we're doing here, just to get to know each other. And then you kind of have a main topic, whether that's a seasonal thing, whether that's an activity, or whether that's a guest speaker. So maybe 20 to 30 minutes, and if they've got slides, you can either find a venue that's got a monitor that you can just plug into. I have an old projector, so I can bring that to meetings. If failing that, you just print stuff out on paper. Have kind of the main topic go on. Maybe have some additional Q&A. And as we're going along, people are enjoying the potluck items, the different beverages and foods. And then, of course, you want to wrap up, thank your host, and also clean up, right? So that's obviously important especially if we're eating and enjoying ourselves. So again, that's just kind of a sample 90-minute-ish format. Maybe 2 hours is a little more realistic. I'm gonna go turn on the lights. So that's kind of the idea of what's worked for us when I've done meetings here. Some ideas for guest speakers, club members themselves who made a specific ferment, maybe a local business owner that's in a related field. So like if somebody who has a small cottage food sourdough bakery business, for example, invite them to talk about their stuff. Breweries, wineries, kombucha makers, water kefir makers. So local business owners, I think that's again just synergistic to get to know your local community business owners and to just cross-pollinate. Ranchers and farmers, if you're in a rural area and you have relationships with your farmers and your ranchers, especially I've got a bias towards those who practice regenerative practices, agriculture, permaculture, etc. And then also food forward chefs. We were talking about what a massive opportunity there is for the restaurant business to start putting more fermented things on their menu. So there are a few chefs out there that are already thinking along this line. So maybe just another idea for a guest speaker. If you know a restaurant in town, we've got somebody who's got a small fermentation program in the restaurant, invite them to come out, and I'm sure they'd be thrilled to talk with other fermenters about what's going on. And again, these slides that I just threw together keep getting cut off as far as the suggestions. So actually, that one didn't get cut off. Good. All right. So that's that. You guys still there? Looks like I'm frozen.
Oh yeah, I'm here, just listening.
Okay, something looks like it got like it's frozen here, but let's see. And oh, I think OBS crashed.
How would I do that?
I think you said.
Oh,
Slide presentation. All right, I think we're back. All right. Can you see the PowerPoint again? Let me make sure I've got the.
Yeah, no, I don't see the PowerPoint, but we're gonna have to.
Okay.
Astronomical and all the stars aligning up, all the planets
Right.
aligning up under the moon. In a few
You
minutes.
got, you
So
said you got.
we gotta head to where it's a little further away from the lights. We get some good view of.
Okay.
thank you.
Cool. All right. Sorry, just one more time. Are you saying you gotta roll off, Joe?
Yeah, we need to roll off.
Okay.
Sunset here, and the 5 of the planets are lining up. So we want to get away from the light and get a look at it.
All right. We're coming in and out, but we'll try and wrap up here. I want to be mindful of your guys' time. So that's the guest speakers. Again, checklist of what to bring, and I've got this all documented out. I can share that with you. Sampling plates, bowls, and cups, silverware. Try to make it reusable so we don't put more disposable stuff into landfills. I like to also bring a lot of neutrally flavored salty snacks like unflavored tortilla chips, popcorn, rice crackers, because oftentimes we're eating like hot sauces and sauerkrauts and kimchis, and you kind of want to cleanse the palate between different things. Maybe ask people to bring extra jars in case we're swapping cultures, or zip top bags. If you've got lots of jars, there's usually a lot of jars hanging out. Knives and tongs for serving stuff. Name tags and Sharpies, just everybody get to know each other, and then a sign-up sheet with clipboards and pens. So again, just kind of the basics for how to have everything at your meeting. Again, I've got this all documented in a more formalized format. I'll provide you with, and then wrapping up. So once the meeting's over, try and set the date for your next meeting. Make sure you clean up and tip the venue if it's applicable. Maybe and if you've got, while you're at it, take a few minutes to take the minutes of what happened at your meeting, and then just kind of send it over. Again, this is new. Having the sort of branches out there, you guys, the communities, is new to me, so I'm always learning. So it's helpful for me to know kind of what transpired, and then I can take those good ideas that you guys did and feed them back, and have, again, this virtuous cycle that I can share with the rest of the other communities as they form. And then if there are any email newsletter signups, snap a picture of them and send them to me, and I can add them to our newsletter. So again, just real basics of going through how to conduct a meeting. I think that's kind of everything that I wanted to get through in this first meeting. I have some homework assignments to finish that handbook. And I'm working on a web page that'll have like a sort of a password protected area where if you do decide to be a community leader, I'll provide you with, different things, like the templates, the sign up sheets, etc., the flyers that you can print out and put up in your town. So I've got some homework to do to get this going, but and then I also do want to maybe talk about this in another meeting, setting up an affiliate programs, meaning, so my business is, classes and offerings. And so, and occasionally like kits, like, kombucha kits or kimchi kits. So if there's a way that, you feel compelled to help promote that, then I can share some of the commissions with you on that. So if you're interested in that, something I can set up. If not, no worries. I don't need to do that. But so that's kind of my the spiel for tonight. You guys have any closing thoughts, closing questions before we adjourn?
I just
Let
wanted
me
to,
ask you, oh, sorry.
that's okay. Thanks for your time, Austin. I'm looking forward to getting a chapter started up here. I think it's going to go really well in my community. I think there's going to be a lot of great people interested in it and a lot of creativity that I'm happy to be involved with you, and yeah, looking forward to it.
Where are you at, Ivy?
I'm in Northern California, in Humboldt County, in our, like, by Eureka, Arcata.
It seems like that's where most of the fermenting type people are.
Well, there's a lot of homesteaders. When you're homesteading and you're a farmer, you want to preserve everything you grew. And also we have weather up here, power goes out, it's all sorts of things. And so it just kind of fits well with our community.
Well, where I live, we have a lot of people that lived in California that are moving into my area. It's amazing. It's even changing. Like the housing, the houses look different because we have so many people from California moving here, but here in the South, we have a kind of a look. And the people from California miss their kind of look. So they're buying houses here, but having them built California style.
I'm sure it's a lot more affordable to buy a house out there than it is out here.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm absolutely positive. And I mean, I've lived in my home for a while, so I think I probably have like 2,700 square feet, and it's $800 a month.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a big change. A lot's happened in the last couple of years, and a lot's happened in California as a state. So I can imagine that's probably why you've got a lot of people moving out east.
Yeah. Until that state of Jefferson gets established, what are you doing about that, Ivy?
Oh, they already have stickers that say, what does it say? Humboldt County out of the US, or
Oh, really?
US out of Humboldt County, something along those lines. Don't quote me, but oh yeah, we think we're our own nation up here for sure.
Right, right. Awesome.
Wow.
Well, this is exactly kind of what I had in mind, as far as people connecting, even if briefly, virtually, but obviously in person. So I guess what I want to know is, and I just put down the date of our next monthly meeting, but if you think that's too far away, meaning like if you're like hot on doing this and you think in the next few weeks you want to maybe set something up and check in, so I guess that's my question is a month enough time for you to kind of think about this, or would you want to meet perhaps sooner than that?
Let's do a month for now, just because I am just about ready to launch my drink to the grocery store. I'm dealing with my processed food registration license and the label. But and I just kind of learned about you, really. Like, I didn't know that I could have a chapter up here. I knew about your organization, but I didn't know or think about having a chapter up here until like last week. So I would say that, yeah, definitely sometime in the next month or two. I'm gonna put together, I've already had a bunch of thoughts that I want to talk to you about, just when we're not on a public platform, so I don't have to waste everyone's time. And probably it's gonna go with the seasons, because
Sure.
we're very seasonal up here. So I'm thinking that that's gonna be a great way to get community involvement as well. And so I want to come up with something creative in the beginning, as we're coming out of our winter. And so I was thinking too, last time I was at the market, I don't always get a chance to go shopping at the market. That's kind of the irony of working at the market.
Right.
But I was thinking about taking a stroll and seeing what I saw, what looked good, and then decide what direction I should go in to kind of launch this. Because I think people are going to really like the making part of it.
Oh, good, good, right.
And I think as it becomes bigger, it'll be pretty easy to get people collectively, because we've got herb farmers and vegetable farmers. So as all these things start to become more plentiful up here, I think it will be a great marriage of all these different people to come together. But I don't want to pack too much on. Plus, I'm still dealing with some health issues, although eating all these foods has, I mean, changed my life. I started a whole business based on it. So I'm on the up and up, but I have a tendency to get excited and then overdo it.
Sure.
So I don't want to commit to something. I want to make sure if I'm committing, I can follow through with it. So I say, let's plan for next month, but I'm going to have a bunch of ideas this month. I'm going to gather up and I'll talk to you and kind of at least get an outline and a plan so that I can move forward with this. Cause it's like the perfect time. Spring is a great time up here to be doing this.
Wonderful. Okay, good. Yeah. And like I said, I'll send you some action items just so we can make sure everybody's you're moving in that direction as far as like the what, the how, and that sort of stuff. So
100%. That's why I decided. I knew I could do it on my own, but it's just more fun to do it with a community. And I love your vision and the things you've mapped out. And so it's just, I would love to just follow suit with everything that you have planned out. And I'm super easy to communicate with. So you'll definitely know everything I'm doing.
Thanks, Ivy.
Yeah.
Anne Marie, any closing thoughts? I know you joined us late, but like I said, I'll send you the slides afterwards.
Yeah, I had really thought the thing was last night, and then I was out. I was at Sprouts, and when I came home, I saw your message, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's right," you know. And then took me a minute to get the passcode in there. So, but I'm here. I didn't miss it all, and I'm happy about that. So how long have you done any ferments with peppers that have a little heat to them, a little kick?
I mean, other than sort of just hot sauce, that's kind of a note. It's just kind of my go-to. I'll have a variety of different heat level peppers. I'm not like one of these guys that needs to like prove anything. And I mean, I'm already fiery. I'm a pitta, so I don't need to get like super hot. But I'll take like jalapenos and a couple other whatever's in season. In fact, got right here. This was like 2022's peppers, whatever I had in there. And then I just brine them, like chop them up fine, rough, a little bit of garlic in a brine for like 6 or 7 months, as I usually let it go. And then I blend it up and put it into a hot sauce. So that's kind of my thing with peppers. Pretty easy.
A few years back, this was before COVID. That's how long this has been. Because we used to have markets up here, and you kind of swap fermented foods for raw product.
Yep.
And especially if they had raw product that was going bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wound up with a couple of large boxes of these peppers. And it's just been fermenting in these glass jars all that time. I do taste it occasionally, but it's not getting any milder. I figure it's probably as mild as it's going to get.
Yeah, I don't know about the heat. I don't think it does mellow out a little bit, but I don't think necessarily that the fermentation, reduces this capsaicin, right? I mean, that's kind of the heat aspect of it. So to my knowledge, I mean, I could be wrong, but
I've also done a lot of okra. I fermented a lot of okra, both like the okra that you would think, and then I've used Indian spices, curries,
Mm-hmm.
curry spices with the okra. And so that was pretty interesting. I actually ate a whole gallon of fermented okra. Not at one time, but
That's impressive, regardless.
it, when it fermented, the flavor was just really good and it was not slimy. It lost its slime
Mm.
in the fermentation process.
That's good. That's one thing that puts people off about okra is the mucilage is, yeah.
Which is sad because it's so beneficial for the gut.
True.
So yeah, I look forward to this because you can share ideas and you can find successes, things to stay away from, because you don't want to throw away your money.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad you're putting this together, because it's like I've bugged you for, you didn't have any clue who I was, but bugged you for a long minute, trying to figure out how to create one of these groups. And I think the thing that has kept me stymied is trying to find a location.
Okay, well, that's good to know. We can put our heads together and come up with some ideas about that. But as far as about a month, does that seem like a good rhythm as far as our next meeting, and give you some time to ponder these things? And like I said, I'll provide you with the full sheet and just give you food for thought and how to start thinking about planning for these.
Sure. Yeah. Doing it any sooner would be a little bit much.
Got it. Okay. Well, great. I think that's a wrap on our first community meeting.
All righty. Thank you.
Thanks, ladies, for joining. And yeah, like I said, I'll send you the notes from this, and then we'll look forward to chatting with you next month, if not sooner.
Okay.
Nice meeting everybody.
Nice meeting you, Ivy.
Yeah, enjoy the planets. If you can see them, it's too cloudy where I live, but I did see on the news they're all lined up. I got
Are they?
the gentleman in New Mexico has a good view.
That may sometimes that's not always a good thing, but let's keep our fingers crossed. Those planets can be pesky now and again.
All right. Well, thanks so much for all the info. I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be great.
Me too. All right.
All right. Have a nice night.